Welcome, everybody. Today's class is going to be conducted by Max and Jacob. So I'll let you guys start.
Yeah, I'll get us. I'll get us started. My apologies if there's any background noise. I had to end my day in the field, so I did my best in finding a good place, a cafe where I could have internet. But yeah, we'll start with the Gemara to give us some background. Hahu Afra. It's going to be as on the source sheet. Daf Samad Chat Ahmed Bet in Avodah Zara. Does everyone have that? And is someone able to get us started in reading Gemara? And I'll indicate a section of the Gemara we might skip for concerns of time. Yeah. Ruben, you're okay. Yeah, thank you.
I'd be happy to. Okay, and you'll tell me when to stop. Okay. Hahu achbara de nefal lechavitza de shichra, asrei rav lahahu shichra. Okay, there's a case of an achbara, of a mouse that fell into a barrel of beer, and Rav deemed the liquid forbidden. Amruha Rabbanan Kame de Rav Sheshet Nema Kasavar Nosen Tam Lifgam Asur. And the Rabbanan said to Rav Sheshet before Rav Sheshet, should we say that Rav holds that Ta'am Lifgam Asur? I guess like Rabbi Meir, should we hold that he doesn't think this is a mechanism for permitting things? Ta'am Lifgam, still Asur. Should I keep going? Yeah. Okay. Amar lahu Rav. Sorry, you're muted.
Yes. When we get to the, we'll stop when we get to the Ella Me'ata, and I'll get someone else to read because the details about Tuma aren't as relevant to our halachic discussion. A lot of later sources cut this section out when quoting.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. Okay. Amar lahu Rav Sheshet, ba'alma savar Rav nosen tam lifgam mutar, v'hacha chidushu, taha mim'as me'is u'vedili inshe mine, v'afil hachi asre rachmana, hilkach nosen tam lifgam nami asur. So Rav Sheshet replies to Rabbanan and says that actually, or generally speaking, I think ba'alma here means generally speaking, Rav holds nosen tam lifgam mutar, not asur. So it is a mechanism we can use for adultification. But in this case, the case of the achbara b'shichra, it's a chiddush. An achbara is disgusting, and people separate themselves from it. But nevertheless, even so, the Torah still forbade it, forbids it. Therefore, even though this is a case of nosen tam lifgam, it's still forbidden. It's still usher.
Okay. Yeah. So it's. I'll point out it's not dissimilar from our discussion that we were having about Surcha Me'ikara, in the sense that we need to teach about things that are, or there's discussion about needing to teach about things that are so disgusting that we might think, it's just automatically pagam, but there's a nuance to this being prohibited by the Torah that it's a fetish. That, yeah. And yeah. Okay. Okay. Is someone able to read how about, since it's the Hahu Achra Tosfot I'll have you read, and I'll have someone else read the other two. So the Huachra one is pretty straightforward.
Okay, let me just get there on my source sheet. Okay, how achbara. How achbara denafal bego chavita deshichra asre rav lahahu shichra. Tema dehadsonen betsonen hu velishtre. So the challenge is it's surprising that he would forbid this because it's a case of tonen betsonen. It's two cold things. It should be permitted. What's the problem at all? ויש לומר דמיירי ששהה שם יום או יומיים והיה כבוש בתוך השכר וכיבוש הרי הוא כמבושל. So the answer is that we're dealing with a case where the achbara sat in the shichra for a day or two, and then it became pickled in the liquid, and the din of pickling is like mevushal. It basically, it's like it's a tavshil. It's been cooked in the shichra.
Yeah, and we'll see a bit later when in the second half of Shir when Max teaches how certain halachists, certain commentators comment on kavush and explore that. Yeah. Would someone else be able to read the next Tosfot? Josie, do you think you could read the next Tosfot? Deham Isa Vadili Ant.
Sure, I just need to get to it. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Deham Isa Vdile Inshimine. Perish Hachimi Im Kain Lama Li Asre Rahmana Dehainu Chidusha. So this is, why do we need to call this a chidush? Became Pirush Lakama and Gabe Shichvad Zera, and we talked about this Perish Akuntras. Oh, thank you, Joel. Perish Akuntras Im Kain Lama Li Da Asre Rahmana Dehainu Chidushe. Why do we need to have this? Became Perish Lakama and Gabe Shichvad Zera, like we're going to talk about later when we talk about that's about dried semen. That it appears that the reason is because this is something specifically disgusting that people are repulsed by. So in any case, when we are have known this from the idea of you basically you can't eat sherets, and in the same way that we have this, that something you can't eat it because it's tame from contact with ejaculate. So I just
want to say that the nuance here is saying like even though someone would be so disgusted by it, that doesn't mean they know the prohibition. They might be so disgusted they wouldn't eat it, but the prohibition about eating a sheretz they might not know, and so we thus have to emphasize that finish that it would still be forbidden because, however disgusting it is, because of the prohibition of sheretz or with the tameh of shefazar. You might be so disgusted by it, we still have to specify it because it's a specific prohibition.
And furthermore, that if we wouldn't have had this idea of chidush like we normally get, chidush ba'alma v'chol makom b'talmud, the chidush ba'alma ratza lamar isur miklal heter or heter miklal isur. So if we were going to really require chidush here, it It would have to be the case where we'd have something truly novel, like something forbidden out of the class of otherwise permitted things, or something permitted out of the class of otherwise forbidden things. So therefore, it appears that the chidush is based upon the idea that people are specifically repulsed by it. And if so, we should think about this in the same way that it would be just noten tam nifgam, dahavi pagam, noten tam nifgam, ve'alma mutar. And in that case, it would be otherwise permitted. Va'afilu hachi asrei rachmana af kol noten tam nifgam, dishratzim asur. And in spite of this, or rather, in light of this still, it's, the Torah prohibits that if it was something that's no tentam nifgam, but it's because of shratzim, one of the specific creepy crawly things that the Torah prohibits, asur keva shekal kisur de shratzim, because the shratzim themselves are specifically prohibited. And now it's good that we have this idea of a chidush, because this is something like that really is an isur that arises in the class of otherwise permitted things.
Yeah, and yeah, I'll say there is the interesting discussion of fetish here, but I think what's really going to be important is this is where it becomes clear that the issue we're talking about, part of the issue we're talking about more broadly with a mouse, is Sheret. That's not made explicit in the Gemara when it talks about fetish. This Tosfot clarifies that. Yeah. Would someone be able to read in the Gemara from Matkif la Rav Shimi ne Nahardai? Noam, are you able to read in the Gemara?
Yeah, I am just Matkif la. Yeah, I just found it. Okay, great. Matkif la Rav Shimi menahardai u mima'is v'halo ole al shulchan shel melachim. So Rav Shimi menahardai said, and is it really disgusting? But don't they put this on the tables of kings? Amar Rav Shimi menardai lo kashya ha bide devara ha bide mata. So he offers teretz to his own kashya, which is we're distinguishing between basically a city mouse and a country mouse. Yeah. Okay, should I keep going in the Gemara? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe just say which one is which.
Mm-hmm.
And what
Rocky says,
the city mouse is gross. The country mouse is delicious.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say I noticed the country mouse. It seems like a cognate with a French word for squirrel, écureuil. So yeah.
Wait, I'm going to challenge the Gemara reading that. How do you know that I don't even know which one you said it was delicious and which one was good, but Havaha in the Gemara is always ambiguous.
No, I know. I just read according to Rashi.
Oh, according to Rashi. Okay, thank you. There we go.
Yeah, Rashi said the city mouse was gross. But also squirrel has some meat on it,
So Montreal, how do you prepare your mouse? You braise it first, or the special?
We smoke it. We
smoke it. Okay. Everything is good smoked. That doesn't count.
Okay. Should I keep going in the Gemara? Yeah.
Yeah.
Amar Rava, Hilchata noten tam livgam mutar, ve'achbara b'shichra lo yadana mai tama derav. Okay, so Rava says, as we've said before, noten tam livgam is mutar, and as for the case about the mouse and beer, we don't know what Rav's reasoning was. I mishum dekasavar noten tam livgam asur, ve'leit Hilchata kavate. So it could be that Rav thought falsely, noten tam livgam asur, and then the halacha doesn't follow him. I mishum dekasavar noten tam livgam mutar, v'achbara b'shichra ashpuche mishpach. Or it could be that Rav thinks correctly, noten tam livgam mutar, but nonetheless actually thinks that the mouse contributes a positive flavor to the beer. Keep going.
I think we can. I think we can have someone else finish up the Gemara. Khalid, are you up to finishing the Gemara for us? Okay. Okay. Eitan.
Sure.
Wait, I have a question. What do you guys make of this fact that what is the halachic significance of the fact that some mice are go on the tables of kings? What does that come to teach us? And therefore what?
That it's l'shevach.
Is that to teach us that it's good flavor in beer? That some mice are good in beer?
I think it might be saying not all mice would fit into the category of sheriff, theoretically. Theoretically, you could see that argument.
Or that the Chiddush goes away. Or that the Chiddush goes away. We say the Chiddush was because you wouldn't have eaten it anyway. You say, no, you would eat it.
Yeah.
So therefore...
Right.
So therefore, it's not exceptional in the laws of Pagam. It's just like anything else.
Depending on which mouse it is, but
the Torah had to prohibit it because it prohibited all mice. So it wasn't. It couldn't get away with not prohibiting. It's not such a Kiddush because it had to say it. And therefore, we're left with that they could be a good flavor, and I guess that's our. And then, but it could be even if they're a good flavor, we don't want it in our beer. You may want orange flavor in your beer, but you don't want mouse flavor in your beer.
Yeah.
But also, it's like the Chiddush is on B'dilei Inshe Minei, and if kings put it on the table, then clearly it's not so gross that someone's going to be like, impulsively disgusted by it. So it's like that kind of mouse would not be a problem. The Chiddush wouldn't apply to that kind of mouse.
But right, no, but then the whole concept of the Chiddush goes away, because once there's any kind of mouse that people do want to eat, then the Torah needs to come and say don't eat it, and therefore there's not a big Chiddush that the Torah tells you don't eat it, and therefore you can't say that mice are exceptional to the rule of a noten tam lifgam.
Well, maybe the Torah is just talking about the particular kind of mouse that's b'dilei inshe minei.
Yeah, I mean, because the Gemara
you can't
says
assume that and then make it into a Chiddush.
Well, but
assume the other and say it's not a Chiddush.
No, but what if your category is not mice or even sharatzim per se, but specifically sharatzim that are mius, right? Like if it's specifically the ones that are disgusting, then you bypass this issue because you don't have to worry about like should we be taught something about the delicious mouse.
No, but I'm just saying you can't have the Chiddush anymore. The Chiddush can't.
Well, you still have the Chiddush. You still have the Chiddush for the ones that are mias, just not for the ones that aren't mias.
Well, we'll think about it more, but I don't think so. I think that logically the Chiddush only applies when there's no other way of explaining the pasuk. The Torah is explaining is forbidding all mice, and you're going to tell me that's a Chiddush? It's not a Chiddush because some of them are eaten by kings. So it's not. Don't tell me it's a Chiddush. Don't say, well, it would be because also included some mice that are bad, then it's a chiddush. No, the Torah just said everything. It said forbidden on all, so it had to say they're all forbidden. And of course, all of them are forbidden, and it's not a chiddush because if it wouldn't have said that, you would have eaten the good ones. Joe?
Yeah, I mean that's why the Gemara drops the Chiddush, I think, right? It's exactly why it says right. So al Shulchan Melachim, and then when they give the reason,
And that's why they don't say, because we could have said, right, I should have asked it the other way around. I should have said, why doesn't the Gemara suggest that he holds that it's what does he say? He said he doesn't hold that
either he holds noten tam lifgam asur, or he holds that achbara b'shichra ashbuche mashbach probably. Yeah, ashbuche mashbach. Right. So
right, but he can't say that it's a special din by mice.
Exactly.
Because the chiddush is gone.
So I guess we can continue in Gemara now. We were at we were at Ibailahu at the very end of Samus Pet Amid Bet. And Eitan, you were going to be reading.
Sure. Ibailahu. Nafala go chala mai. Amar le Rav Hillel Rav Ashi. Hava uvda be Rav Kahana, va'asa Rav Kahana. Amar le hahu imratute imratetz. Okay, so they asked a question. What happens if the achbar falls in vinegar? Rav Hillel says to Rav Ashi, this actually happened by Rav Kahana, and Rav Kahana said that the vinegar is asur. He replied, that was a case where the mouse was cut into pieces or dismembered somehow. Should I keep going?
How about we read?
Well, what's the significance of it being in little pieces? Therefore, what? Because you got to see Rashi.
Yeah, I think we also need to talk about the Rashi. I should have made it clearer to emphasize this on the source sheet. But we should also look at Nafalagav Chala Mai to see about the emphasis, like what's the significance of vinegar before we see the significance of the small pieces. So, are you able to read the Rashi?
Do you want me to read the Rashi? Sure. Nafal lego chalamai. Mi amrina nachometz tamo kashe ve'ina sheretz mafigo latet botam. Don't we say that vinegar has sort of a hard or sharp flavor, and the sheretz can't contribute flavor to it because vinegar already has such a strong flavor that something else going in wouldn't necessarily contribute flavor.
Well, mefigo latet botam. What does mefigo mean?
I mean to give a bad flavor?
Or
not just to give it flavor, to give it bad flavor. I think this is a very interesting. What's this question? This is a different question. This is a new question that we never thought about before.
Yeah.
This is a totally new question. If you abstract, can anybody? I'm sorry to jump in, Jake, but But can anybody think of an abstract way of explaining what this question is asking? Like abstract away from vinegar and mice. And just think about like something that's pogam or not pogam or in the substance. Like, how would you phrase this question?
It'd be like the difference in surfaces of glass versus ceramics. Because the beer can be penetrated by the flavor, but the vinegar can't.
Are you saying like in the same way that some vessels can? Okay, I hear it. That's very interesting. Yeah. Any Eitan?
Yeah. Well, what if you have something that's gross that is not notan tam leaf gum because the thing that goes in is already such as a strong flavor that like it's not leaf gum at all, even though like the thing that goes in it is pretty gross.
I think that's exactly the question. Yeah, I think that's great. In other words, up till now we said The thing is good, but it gives bad flavor, or the thing is bad, but gives bad flavor. And now we're talking about the thing is bad, but doesn't give, it gives good flavor essentially. It doesn't give bad flavor. So that's a new question. A thing that's bad, but you can't. It's not pogam the vinegar. So you want to say it's usher now because you can't say no ten tam lifgam because it doesn't no ten tam lifgam in vinegar. And it's an usher thing. This mouse, so it should forbid the vinegar. We have no head to mat to the vinegar, or do we say no? Since it's, or do we say no? I don't know what the svara is the other way exactly, but all right, that's my 2 cents. I just wanted to point out it's a new question. I think it's an interesting question. Jacob, take it.
Oh, I think we'll continue with the next Rashi too to now explore why is it significant the cutting up into pieces.
Oh, should I keep reading? Okay. Imra tute imra tetz lachatichot dakot ktanot v'sheretz isuro ke'adasha ketumato v'chayshinan dilma bolea chatichot sheretz v'hade chometz. So it's cut up into small, thin pieces. And when it comes to a sheretz, its prohibition is even in the size of a lentil in the same way that its tuma works, I think. And we're worried that perhaps the pieces of chatichot have been absorbed with the vinegar. Of the chatichot of the sheretz, have been absorbed with the vinegar, making it not kosher. And that because I guess it being small is potentially allows it to absorb also.
I have trouble with explaining bolea meaning absorb. I mean, even though it always does mean that, here it doesn't seem to me that that's what it means. Joel, what do you say?
No, bolea is that you're gonna swallow chatichot sheretz. Right?
Yeah, exactly. We're no longer worried about the flavor. We're worried about the actual substance of eating it. In other words, normally we say it has to be a kazayit or something, but here by sheretz, even if it's not a whole sheretz, even if it's a part of a sheretz, and it's like the size of a lentil, then it's also forbidden. And the reason why he forbid this is nothing to do with tam. It has to do with material. There are pieces of the stuff in Shema Bolea.
And again, we're going to see some of the ideas in this Rashi be picked up when we look at the Torah about the actual how we deal with the mamas of the sheretz in a mixture. Eitan, how about you? I know I'm asking. How about you finish the Gemara and then we'll up till the Mishnah and we'll switch to someone else.
Okay. Ravina Savar l'shi'urei b'mea v'chad. Amar lo gara mitruma pitnan truma ole b'chad v'mea. So Ravina thought that maybe we should therefore measure this with 101 parts against the potential isur, because it's not going to be any less than truma. And the Mishnah teaches us that with truma you count with 101. Amar le Rav Tachlifa bar Giza le Ravina Dilma katavlin shel truma bikder adame delo batil tamayu delo batil tamayu. So Rav Tachlifa bar Giza said to Ravina, perhaps we should measure it like the spices made of truma in a pot, and we should liken it to that, which never gets canceled out, because I guess the flavor is so strong. Rav Achai Shi'er Bechala Bechamishin, Rav Shmuel Bar Derav Ika Shi'er B'Shekara B'Shitin, V'Hilchata Idi V'Idi B'Shitin, V'Ken Kol Isurin Shabbatorah. Rav Achai measures when it comes to vinegar with 50, because I guess vinegar is such a strong flavor. Rav Shmuel, son of Rav Ika measures beer with 60, and the halacha is that both you measure it with 60, the same way that you measure all the Isurim in the Torah.
Yeah. And yeah, we're not going to really look at the other Tosfos. They are interesting. There is one that I set focus on, partly because it brings out a little bit more clearly some. I mean, it's an interesting one, but also brings out a little bit more clearly that, like, yes, there might be ways we learn from each other from the cases of Kashrut and Tuma, but we can't say that they're the same thing. But yeah, and there's a lot of interesting commentary about why these different amounts in the Tosafot, but I think for what the halacha really emphasizes, given the ruling at the end of the sugya, it's not as important for our purposes to look at all the Tosafot. Would someone be able to continue with the I think the Siltei Giborim? Have I not had? Samai, are you up to reading anything or?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the Siltei Giborim.
Yeah. So the Siltei Giborim from the source sheet. Yeah.
Yeah.
לרכב העכבר ונתמרטט במשכין, הרי אלו אסורין אפילו ביותר מ-60, שמא יבוא כעדשה מן השרץ לתוך המשכין, והשרץ שירו כעדשה. So if the mouse was sliced into pieces in the mashke, then it's asur even if there's more than 6 times 60 the amount of the mashke, because you might eat an adasha, an amount of adasha, and that's the shear of sheretz. So less than adasha is okay, but since it's likely that you're going to eat more than adasha, then it's asur. ונראה בעיניי, so it seems to me, שלא אמרו כן, אלא בחומץ ובשוחר. So it's not all mashkin, it's just vinegar and beer, שהוא צומתו ואינו מסריח. So these two specific mashkim, vinegar and beer, they're not, it doesn't become repulsive. אבל בשאר משכין שהוא מסריח בהן, in other words, because they're so strong, so it doesn't the achbar doesn't cause it to masriach. But if the other mashkin, the שהוא מסריח בהן, אפילו יבוא מן השרץ לתוך פיו, אין בו איסור תורה, אלא מדברי סופרים. So even if you eat part of the sheretz, then it's not asur midoraita, but only midorabanan. ואין לגזום בדברי סופרים שמא יבוא לתוך פיו ומסננן והן מותרים. And we shouldn't make a gezerah, we shouldn't make a decree from the rabbis that he might eat parts of it come into his mouth, and therefore they are mutar.
Wait, one word you got to add there. Umisanan vehen mutarin.
So, yeah.
What's the heter? Is the heter to drink it? No, the heter is not to drink it. The heter is only to drink it after you did sinun. And what was the gezerah that we were thinking of doing? We were thinking of saying even after you poured it through a sieve or a filter, you still can't eat it because maybe you missed one.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's saying, no, we're not going to. That's actually, and that's the way he understands the Gemara, really. That it's saying, obviously, you're going to filter it, which everybody should have been asking. Why there's pieces of lentils in my vinegar? Just filter it. That's a very important point. That's very interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't filter it, then obviously it's asur because you're eating a piece of the sheretz. But right, so if you are doing sinun, then it's mutar. Only then, right?
Yeah. That's his chiddush. He's saying it's mutar even after the. In other words, you might have thought that even after the filtering, it's usser because maybe you missed one.
And only because it's not you're not over on Isur Torah,
right?
Right?
If it would be Isur Torah, then we would be gozer.
Okay.
Even after you filtered
it. Yeah. ויש לומר שגם כשנפל בחומץ, אם הוא מסונן יפה, יפה, מותר. So even if it fell in vinegar, then if it's sifted, then and you're sure that you're not eating a piece of it of the achbar, then it's mutar. ולא אסרו חכמים עכבר שנפל ונרקב בחומץ, אלא מפני שהיה תבשיל של חומץ שאינו ראוי לסננו, כמבואר בקונטרס הראיות. So where the Chachamim did do a gezerah, that's only in the case of a mouse that fell into a vinegar, not any vinegar, but it was a tafshil, which cannot go through sinun. So therefore, because it cannot go through sinun, okay, so therefore the Chachamim made a gezerah. But anything that can undergo a sinun, then there is no gezerah by the Chachamim and it's mutar.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. No.
I'm just trying to wrap my mind around why, if I'm understanding correctly, if a sheretz breaks up in wine or vinegar, it's aser without any possibility of bitul in shishim.
I think. Well, I think there are two aspects of that. I think one, the physical pieces. I don't think like even if they might not have the ta'am, there's still definitely the it's around the mamash show a bit and around sheretz. And then with flavor, I think we would say it could be batel b'shishin, but we're not saying that. We're saying that pagam doesn't necessarily apply with that, or it doesn't apply with that.
He says harei alu aserin afilu biyoter mishishim.
Oh,
right. That's specifically in the case of when things are breaking up, right? Like there's the two different issues. There's the question of whether something is pogame in like the beer or the vinegar, which determines whether you need shishim or whether once you remove it, like, or if it totally dissolves, if it's like fine without anything, or if it dissolves with like a majority. Whereas when it breaks up into the little pieces that can't be strained, then it doesn't matter whether it's beer or vinegar or anything else. In any of those cases, the issue is that the kadasha of the sheretz that you might encounter would be forbidden. So in any of the liquids, we say that's forbidden.
But why don't we say achad b'trei batel?
But you can't say batel on the actual mamashut of the sheretz. If it's adasha, it will never be batel.
No, you could if you had. Theoretically you could, but in this case we can't. But theoretically you could say we see that hatichot are asura, or unless you want to say it's like a birya. Jacob, what do you say?
Well, I would also say like it's don't we often do chad betray with like a mixture of discrete pieces, or is it just ratios?
Well, I think there's something missing here. When you say echad b'trei, you have to have the echad and you have to have the tray. In this case, we have the echad, but we don't have any trays. We have the carrots, but we don't have other pieces of particles in the
exactly. It's in a liquid.
No
that's not.
There's two levels. There's two rovadim. One level is the tam, and that could be batel. And the other level is the substance. But in order to batel the substance, you need not liquid. You need substance that is comparable to it, not the liquid, but it has to be like particles. Unless another alternative, I'm not sure about this though, is that we never saw this anywhere, but maybe a sheretz is treated like a birya, in which case, if you live by elef, it wouldn't be batel. I never saw that anywhere, so I don't want to say that
Well,
without.
but that would only be relevant when it's intact, right? The afilu be'elef lo batil wouldn't apply once it's imratute imratat, like once it's been chopped up into
No, as
little
long as it's the
pieces, as
size
far
of
as
as long as it's the size of
birria.
an adasha, as long
Well,
as
but
it's the
I'm
size
saying
of
that's not birria. That would be a separate
I
principle.
know it's not like birria. I know it is not birria. I said maybe it's like birria. Maybe there's a new category called sheretz, which is not birria, but has the din like birria and hatichash shuri litchabed and varsh b'minyan, all those things that are not batel in fila ba'elef because of their chashivut. So maybe a adasha
Right.
size of a sheret. But like I said, that's just I'm throwing that out there. I didn't see it anywhere. I go with the
I mean,
first explanation.
it is
First
sort of brought
explanation
up
is that
because
there is no substance against which to battle it.
they end up saying in the Nosei Kalim that it's not lach balach and it's not yavesh b'yavesh, so you can't do
Exactly.
either of the normal like
Exactly.
forms of betul.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's the
But
Taz. That's the Taz's answer to this question.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
But
just
that's
with regards to the Tuma question, I'll say like they're not. I don't think that's the main concern as to what's happening in the Gemara because they're living at a time where they're not like trying to prevent themselves from becoming tame. Like there's lots of things like the concern of like not becoming tame is not like generally a thing that is being actionable in the Moraim's world. So I think they're using the rules of Tuma to learn out the idea of this as like a chiddush, but I don't think that the concern of becoming tame is the concern that is applicable in that sugya because it's neither how they articulate it nor something that we generally see the Amoraim worrying about.
I think it's like Birya in that sense. Like this is where Rav Nachman is right that it's like right because Birya, what's the reason? It's because it has the Torah says you can't eat a Birya even if it's smaller than an olive. And why? Because it has chashivut. Same thing here. We know that the fact that you get tuma from even a ke'adasha is because there's chashivut to a part of a sheretz that even if it's the size of ke'adasha. So it could be.
And then you also have the question of Chetzi Shir Asumina Torah, which you may have seen in the Ran. So even if it's less than an Adashah, might still be a problem.
right, but it probably would be batal in that case. In other words, it would be a problem, but it would be able to be batal maybe
Because it loses chashivut at that point, right?
Yeah, but we never saw that anyway. We have to add a siman to the Shulchan Aruch called sheretz ka'adasha.
Yeah, but I'll just say generally, Noam, your question about the bitzel on this case is the Shach and Taz, the machlokas between the Shach and the Taz and the Achronim.
Yeah. I think we'll continue with the Ron Al Harif from the source sheet. Isaac, are you up to reading this?
Yeah, we're doing the Ron. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. ונשאל לגאון זה לשונו בעיקר שנפל לשמן של בית הכנסת, ואמר אם השרץ נימוח בשמן, משארים בשישים בשמן רותח ומותר באכילה. Okay, so the Gaon was asked, there's a mouse that fell into oil that's used to light the lamps of a synagogue. And he said if the sheretz was melted into the oil, like it's dissolved entirely, you can't see it, you measure 60 against it when you're talking about hot oil, and then it's permissible to eat it. Ve'en sarich lomar lahalaka, and obviously also to use it for the lamps. Ve'itzonen hu ma'aviro bemasnenet v'share afilu ba'achila, And if the oil was cold, then you put it through a sieve, and then it's permissible even to eat it. Okay. ואילו כשם שאסור באכילה, כך אסור להדלקה, משום שנאמר, הקריבהו נא לפחתך עד כאן. And if not, if, for example, it's forbidden to eat, then it's also forbidden to be used to light the lamps, because we have this pasuk that says, bring it to your
I think it's something like governor or something like
okay.
that. How JPS
I was like, yeah. Thank you. I couldn't remember what we would call that. Okay. In other words, God is like your fancy ruler. And so you can't, and if something is forbidden to be eaten, obviously you shouldn't be presenting this messed up, damaged thing to God by using it to light the shul lamps. Okay. מכלל דספירה זה לשונו, דכי היכי דאמרינן בפרק בתרא בעבודה זרה, דאיקברה בשכרה, וחלה אשפוכי משפח, הכי נמי בשמן, אבל הרם בסמבוק כתב
I think it's Rambam Zal.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have it as like two words weirdly in your
words?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's that. All right. I was getting confused because I was like, but this is what the Rambam said. Okay.
The Ron always writes it like that.
Really?
Yeah. And in fact, one of my chavrusas used to say, "Haram b'mazel, b'mazal."
Okay.
I don't know why but it's a Rambam because he wants to say it's Harav Moshe, and then he wants to say that it's his father who's, I don't know, maybe it's still alive. I don't know. No, his father is dead. Haram. Then I don't know who does the Zal refer to.
Yeah, I don't.
Whatever. Anyway, that's the way the Ron always writes it.
All right. That now I'm less confused. Thank you. דלה משפח אלא בשכרה וחלה, אבל ביין ושמן מפגם פגם ושרי, וכן דעת חכמי הצפרתים זה לשונו. Okay. Okay, so he has this principle about eating versus lighting and straining the oil, because of what it says in the final chapter of Avodah Zarah, that you have a mouse in alcohol and vinegar makes the flavor better. So then here too, it also applies to oil. But the Rambam says that actually it doesn't. It only a mouse only approves the flavor when you're talking about alcohol and vinegar, but in wine and oil, it damages the flavor, and therefore it's permissible. And that's also what the French rabbis think.
Yeah. And I had forgotten to ask someone to read we can read the Rambam now. Would you be willing to read that in addition?
Yeah, let me I gotta grab it off of here we go. Okay. It's Halacha Lamed Aleph, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ikbar shenafal l'shechar o lechomets, משערין אותו בשישים, שאנו חוששים שמא טעמו בשechar ובחומץ mashbiach. Okay, so you have a mouse that falls into alcohol or vinegar. We measure it against 60 because we're worried that it will that the mouse will have improved the flavor of either of these things. אבל אם נפל ליין או לשמן או לדבש, מותר ואפילו נתן טעם, מפני שטעמו פוגם, שכל אלו צריכים להיותן מבוסמים, pardon me, וזה מסליחן ומפסיד טעמן. Okay. But if it fell into wine or oil or honey, it's permissible, even if it imparts some sort of flavor, because it makes the flavor worse. It damages the flavor. Because with the case of these wine and oil and honey, they need to have a nice flavor or like a sweet flavor. And the mouse makes it gross and it damages or loses some part of their flavor as a result.
Right, and this just spells out the nuance that wasn't clear in the run of why oil might be different with the Sarah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it also, again, connects to the discussion we were having earlier about the strength of flavors of like vinegar and beer, and possibly their negative aspects that impact how we're concerned about them and how much how much mouse imparts flavor, but because we're contrasting it with things that need to smell and taste good. We can, I think, start a bit of the Beit Yosef without really going into detail of reading the Torah, but we'll probably maybe read the Beit Yosef on some Beit Yosef on Aleph and Bet, and then take a break, and Max will finish in the rest of Shir. Or we can read the Torah, actually. Yeah, we can start with the Torah. And then I guess after the Torah, we'll probably take a break. Eliyahu, I was told you were visiting. I wasn't told whether you were comfortable reading or not. I just wasn't told that much information. Or no worries if you're not comfortable.
I can read the Torah. Akbar shnachal l'shechar, ולחומץ חשו חכמים שמא משפיע השכר והחומץ. לפיכך, אם נפל לתוכו צונן וסירו שלם, אם לא שהה בתוכו יום שלם מעת לעת, מותר. So, in the case that we learned about in the Gemara, the Chachamim were concerned that maybe it would improve the beer or vinegar, and therefore they made the Isur. So if it goes into something cold, so I guess generalizing this case, and it's removed whole, so we're not talking about the cut up case. If it hasn't been there for a full day, so we're taking out all the other additions in the Tosfot, then it's mutar. So unless there's different conditions that would make it asur, but if none of those apply, then it's mutar. Aval imari urtachin or afilu tzananin v'shaba tochan me'et la'et chashuv kemivashal afilu asur shalem. So, but if it was a boiling or it was cold, but was with it for a long time, then it's considered to be mvushal. And even if you take it out, then it's still you can't. It's asur. Tzarich shishim kenegdo levatel tamo, and that's unless we have this shishim, which would make it mutar again. שפלט, ואם נחתך בתוכו לחתיכות דקות ויכול לסננו במסננת, בעניין שלא יישאר ממנו בתוכו כלום, תמו בטל בשישים.
The Sephiroth went on the previous clause because it's not telling the Tom that came out of the Sheretz of the Akbar.
Okay.
So then you can start with the Eam.
Yeah, so then if we were talking about the case where it's in a bunch of pieces, and you can filter it out, then it's still the same as the Batal B'Shishim. But if the pieces have disappeared, because they've absorbed, it's still Batal B'Shishim. V'im nachtecha ba'inyan she'eno yachol levaro hakol asur. But if it's cut up so fine, I guess, that you can't really tell it apart, then it's asur. I guess even if it's less than 60. Or yeah, I mean even if it's more than 60. I'm reading this for the first time, so I didn't prepare this part.
Yeah.
Oh, that was.
I think you got it right. Even if it's more than 60, if there's particles there, physical pieces, then it's asur. What pieces though are they? Are they kadasha, or are they smaller than kadasha?
It doesn't seem to specify.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I guess I can read through the rest of the tour and we can take a break, or Max can intro the second half, or yeah. So I'll read through. Oh,
go.
Yeah, I'll read through the rest of the tour now. Yeah. So Katav Rambam the Nafala Yain V'Shemen. Sorry, Se'ilu Tzrichin Lilusamim Uvivadai Poke. So the Rambam writes, as we saw, if an akhbar falls into wine or oil, it's permitted, since these need to smell nice and be nice, and it would certainly be pagam. Katav harashba devar mahamusim shenat shel shel adam katsab and kinemalim uchzvubim v'yitushin shekol adam bodom and meusan. Dilu nitarvo b'tavshil v'nimcha gufan b'tocho im haheter rabba olav mutarin. The Rashba writes disgusting things that a person would be disgusted by them, like ants and flies and mosquitoes, that everyone distances themselves from them because of their grossness. Even if they were mixed in something cooked and their entire body is dissolved within it, if the heter is greater than the ether that's dissolved, these mixtures will be permitted.
I have a question about this. Any kind of ribui or just shishim? When he says ha'eta rabeh alav mutarin, is that 51%?
Yeah, we'll get to that in the second half, but it does seem to be what the Rosh was saying.
Yeah. Kol makom kol she'efshar livdok u'lavir b'mismenet bodek u'misamein. In any case, though, whenever it's possible to search and to remove in a sieve these disgusting things, one should search and sift. I guess we'll wrap up the first half with this. Max, are you going to intro the second half now, and then we'll take the break, or after the break?
Yeah, let's take 5 here, and then when we come back, we'll do a little bit of recapping of the Torah and introduce some of the questions that'll come up in the Beis Yosef. Great. So 6 after.
I missed a discussion about how it's very popular to use small little shrimpy-like things as condiments there. Is that what that reference was, Meliahu?
I don't know. I've never been to Bangkok either. Me and the
I'm
Rashba.
told that in Bangkok and the world's your oyster.
Okay, so I think let's get started. I want to talk a little bit about 2 pieces that come up in the tour, just to sort of intro us to some of the questions that'll come up in the Rishonim and afterwards. So I first just want to ask, this might be obvious, but I think it's worth sort of saying, here. When the tour, I think there's an echo. Okay, let's see. Okay, so when the Torah says Achbar shenafa l'sheichar or l'chometz, and then says again, Chashu chachamim shema mashbiach hasheichar v'chometz, what do you make of the Torah's use of sheichar and chometz in that opening phrase? Yeah, Eitan?
Not sure if this is what you're getting at, but it does seem like he's using them like the Davka. He's like, specifically with these things, there's an issue where it's not going to be Tam Leaf Gum, it's going to be Tam Lesheva. But
good.
Like he doesn't say this here, but for everything else, it might like make it worse, so it's not a problem.
Good, exactly. So we saw this a little bit in the Ran, right, with the comparison between the Gaon, who talked about the Shemen, and the Rambam, that there's one question seems to be the question of Dafka, whether or not Sheichar and Chometz are Dafka. Just to say, those are the 2 cases in the Gemara, right? The first half of the Gemara is about the Sheichar with Rav, and then the second half is the question about vinegar. Okay, so the Torah seems to be reading just like we saw the Rambam did, that the fact that the Gemara mentions Sheichar and Chometz is Dafka. Okay, that seems to be the Torah, but we'll see that in the Rishonim a little bit more. I also wanted to ask, it's okay if people don't have it off the top of their head, but in the Torah here in Aleph, are there any pieces of the Gemara that you might have expected the Torah to include that he doesn't? Any distinctions or anything we saw in the Sugya that we don't see him say out here?
Yeah, the chometz is kasher, that tamo kasher, right? He doesn't treat that as something that cannot be flavored because it's so kasher.
Okay, so there's a question of maybe why the chometz might be different, or why we're talking about chometz. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, it's true that was just Rashi, the kasha part. Yeah, Reuben?
He just says Achbar Stam. He doesn't make any distinction between different types of Achbarim.
Right, exactly. Right. So we saw in the Sugya, we had this question of, are we talking about a city mouse or a field mouse? And the Torah does not make any distinction. Okay?
But he does say, he says, Chashu Chachamim, right? Whereas the Gemara seems to think that it's kind of Davka, that if you put at least the right type of, or perhaps wrong type of mouse in it, that it'll be mashbiach.
Possibly, but I think the Dean is the same. Right? I think he's just explaining why you might say it's l'shevach in these liquids. The Dean is the same. I think he's just saying this is the reason why we say something different about those 2 liquids. Okay, let's jump straight into the Beis Yosef. Let's see. Josie, can you read? Starting, we're going to skip the sugya. But if you can start uksavo harif. So a little bit down in the beginning of the Beis Yosef.
Uktavo harif veharosh dechashinan dilma ashbuche ashbach b'chala v'shichra v'chein katav Rambam b'perek Tedvav mihocha ma'achot osrot v'katav harosh tema dehai shichra v'chala tzonehem lama nasru b'nefilat achbar. So he quotes here the Reef, the Rosh, that the possibility is that there might be an improvement to the taste if you fall into vinegar or to beer. And the Rambam wrote in Hilchot Malchot the same thing, and the Rosh writes that he's surprised that this about this beer and this vinegar, because they're cold in this case. We're not talking about something that's like actively cooking. Lama nasru b'din filat achbar. V'chi'im nafal zvuv b'yayin sonein asur. And if you have a fly that falls into cold wine, it would be asur. V'yesh lamar.
I think that's a rhetorical question.
Right.
V'chi'im nafal zvuv. Right. It can you not just take the fly out?
Out of it,
right? If it falls into a cold glass of wine.
Which sort of also leads into the whole idea of straining it out that we talk about a little bit later. Right. So this mouse is sitting there for a while. And it pickled. V'niflat ta'amo, and its flavor was expelled into the liquid. B'shechar v'chometz v'lo pirshu v'chometz v'lo pirshu atosfot kama ya'amo b'shechar v'chometz denichav sheh kavush, and the Tosfot discuss how long it had to sit in the in the vinegar or the beer to consider to have pickled significantly. Kimushal, that if it sits there a while, pickling is like cooking. So we have this now. It's no longer just sonen.
I'll just say that this line here about the Tosfos, it's possible that this shouldn't be here, because we did see in the Tosfos earlier that they said Yoma Yomayim, right? So they do give a time. And there's I have a note here on the bottom that it's maybe this line should be cut out. But in any event, you can continue.
Okay.
I have a Shamati.
Shamati b'shem Ritzba, excuse me. De'im shahabatocho yom shalem me'ilait nikra kavush ubele al polet kamuvashal. So the Ritzba says that if it's been there made late for this 24-hour period, it's pickled, and that's it. It's expelling its flavor. And we're going to see this next in Kufhei.
Okay, so sort of in the Beis Yosef, in explaining the beginning of the Torah here in Aleph, right? Oh, sorry, Josie, can you mute? Sorry. So the reason why the Torah says im nafal l'sochot sonen v'hesiro shalem, right, is because the only reason you have the opportunity to just take the mouse out is because number one, it's not hot, right? In which case we'd say something different. Or if it sits in the vinegar for 24 hours, kavush harehu kimbushal, which I think we'll see next week, and so that's a different case, right? But if everything is cold, as we saw in the Tosfos, then everything should be okay. 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 Good. So we saw in the Rambam. I'll just say quickly. Now we'll sort of get to this question of Davka, right? Are the cases in the Gemara the cases of Chometz and Shechar Davka? And the Rambam seems to say yes, right? He says, Im nafal yain v'shemen shari she'elu tzrichin lios mevusamim uvevadai pogem, right? That If it's something that's not sheikhar or chometz, then it's shari, right? The mice don't have the same effect in those liquids as they do in sheikhar and chometz. Okay, but we'll see now in the Beis Yosef this question of whether or not to read davka is not so simple. We already saw a little bit of it in the Ran earlier, but Ruben, could I ask you to read in the Beis Yosef starting Kasav HaRambam?
Kasav HaRambam. Can you contextualize where that is for me?
It's the beginning of base.
Oh, the beginning of base, Seif base in the Torah?
Correct.
Okay. Sorry, I have my whole other numbering system. Sorry, 1 second. Almost there. Okay. Kasav HaRambam. Im nafal leyayin v'shemen hare v'chule. בפרק ט"ו, מהמאכלות אסורות, וכתב הר"ן בפרק בתרא דעבודה זרה, הורו רבותינו הצרפתים, הלכה למעשה דווקא בחלה ושכרה, לפי שמשביח, אבל בשמן ויין או שאר משקים פוגם הוא ומותר. וכן כתב הרמב"ם ז"ל עד כאן לשונו. Okay. Pausing for a second. Okay, so the Rambam says, right, if it falls into oil or wine, oh, sorry, that was the Diwar Machil. The Ran writes that the French rabbis, the halacha lemasa is that it is davka bechala v'shichra, that tam lifkam asur in this case, because, oh, sorry.
But not tam lifkam asur.
Not time lifkam, sorry. Time lifkam mutar. This is l'shevach, but only for chalav v'shichra. Sorry, I led us astray. But b'shemen v'yayin u'shar mashkin. But for all other things, it is tam lifkam mutar, and it is pogam. Okay, and that's also what the Rambam wrote.
Yeah.
V'kach piresh harashba b'Toras Habayit. ואף על פי שמדברי הגאון שכתבתי בסמוך, משמע דספירה לי דחלה ושכרה לאו דווקא, אלא הוא הדין לשמן, כבר הרגיש הר"ן ז"ל בדבר, וכתב שהרמב"ם ורבותינו הצרפתים חלוקים עליו בזה, ובסמוך התפאר שכל שנפל לתוך שאר משכין ונמחה גופו לתוכו לגמרי, כל שההתר רבה על האיסור, אפילו יש באיסור כזית בכדי אכילת פרס, מותר. Should I pause there?
Yeah, you can pause there. You just try to summarize and just in general. You don't have to translate the whole thing.
Okay. So the Rashba. Now this is the Rashba. But then Hagaon here is referring to the Rif.
The Gaon is the Gaon that we saw earlier.
Oh, that's the Gaon that we already saw.
Right, the case of the oil in the shul.
That's right. So Chala and Shichra is Lav Dafka. And Hadin L'Shemen. Ella who Hadin L'Shemen Kwahiki Shemen.
Right, so when he says Afal Pi, right, he's saying there's another voice out there, right? There's we've established already there's the Tzfartim who all seem to agree that we're talking Dafka, Chal, and Shikra.
Right.
But this Gaon, right, he's basically contextualizing the Gaon for us as being against seemingly everyone else.
Okay. There's the Gaon who says Lav Dafka, and then there's everybody else who says Dafka.
Right. Okay. You can skip down now to in the same section, Vidad Amrinan.
Yes. Okay. Wait, you said this is the same?
It's in the same section, just down a little bit towards the end. I have it, there's one line before a colon.
Oh, okay. Hold on 1 second. V'da de'amrinan. V'da de'amrinan b'gemara, deha de'achbar me'is, hainu davka achbar demata. De'ilu de'achbara de'davra, oleh al shulchan melachim hu. Okay, so what he says. I don't know who's speaking right now. Is this the Beis Yosef speaking?
This is a bit, yeah, exactly.
Okay, Beis Yosef is speaking, and he says that when the Gemara talks about an achbar being me'is, Rav Sheshet, for example, this is dafka the achbar demata, the city mouse, because the achbar dedavra is eaten by kings. So he makes the chiluk between the achbarim.
Right. So this is our first indication, at least post Gemara, that there might be some distinction here between different types of mice. Okay, we're gonna explore it a little bit later, but Eitan.
Just want to plug the question back in that we were talking about earlier, which is, so how does the chidush work if there's different kinds of mice?
Yeah, you're saying can you totally get rid of you totally get rid of the chiddush if there's say in that sense.
Just like what Rav Nachum was saying back when we were looking at the Gemara was that the Torah talks about mice and doesn't make the distinction, and so once we make a distinction between mice and get rid of this umbrella idea of mice, then the chiddush sort of goes away. But the Beis Yosef keeps the chiddush with distinguishing between the two kinds of mice.
Right.
So I'm just wondering how he would understand the chiddush.
Yeah. Okay. It's a good question. Let's. I want to hold on to it a little bit. I want to move a little bit further in the Beis Yosef, but we're going to come back to it because, right, we just saw that the Torah makes no mention of the distinction. We're going to see the Beis Yosef, or the Mechaber is going to bring it, and then we're going to talk exactly about this question of how he, basically how he reads the Gemara. So we'll talk about it a little bit later. But thank you for bringing it back up. I want to skip a little bit down. So the next piece is basically, it seems like maybe Ruben, can you read it in the next section before Gimel in the Beis Yosef? There's a section that starts ve'efshar shehu sover, just talking about the Rosh.
Before Gimel.
Before, yeah, a couple lines above Gimel.
Efshar shehu sover. Yes, just let me find it. I found it. Okay. The Efshar shehu sover. And you said we're talking about the Rosh. Okay. The Efshar shehu sover she'ein chiluk ben she'ar mashkim l'shichra v'chala. Tibakul ika lemechash dilma ashvuche mashvach. Bekach nireh, right?
Or v'chei nireh or something. Yeah.
V'chei nireh. Mimashe katabti. V'chei im nafal zvuv b'yayin tzonen. וכי אם נפל זבוב ביין צונן אסור, משמע שאם היה חם ניחא שיהיה אסור. מכל מקום לעניין הלכה נקטינן כהרמב"ן והרשב"א ורבותינו הצרפתים בסמוך. Okay, so it's possible that the Rosh holds that we don't make a difference between Shar Mashkim and Shichar B'chala, because for all of these liquids, we have reason to be concerned that the achbara actually is the shevach. And we can learn that from what the Rosh wrote, his rhetorical question. If a fly falls in wine, would it be forbidden? Just pluck it out. And we can infer that if a fly falls in cold wine, I left out an important word. We can infer that if the wine was hot, when he says nichale, meaning yes, it actually would be asur.
Yeah,
it would actually be asur. Right, nichale sheyeh asur. But nevertheless, in halacha, we rule like the Ramban and the Rashba and the Rabbeinu at Sarfatim that there is a chiluk, and it's dafka for chala and shichra.
Right. So basically, we learned that there's there's another person on the side of that Gaon who we saw before with the oil case, and that's seemingly the Rosh, right? It's not so explicit in the Rosh, but that's how the Beis Yosef reads him. But in any event, we paskin like most everyone else, which is that we are talking about davka with wine, beer and vinegar. Excuse me. Okay, I think let's go now. I think let's do Aleph in the Shulchan Aruch. I was going to read the rest of the Torah, but I think since we have this question hanging that Rav Nachman Eitan brought up, which is the question of city mice and field mice and chiddush and all of this, I think let's just go there and see what happens. Okay, Noam, could you read? Just read. You can read Aleph in the Shulchan Aruch. I'll stop you because it's mostly pretty similar to the Torah, but I just want to read the first part.
Sounds good. Achbara de dabra noten tam l'shevachu, sharei ole al shulchan melachim. Aval achbara de mata mesapkan lan im mashpiach b'shechar v'chometz o im hu pogem. Do you want me to translate?
Read one more line and then translate.
Okay. Lefichach, im nafal shechar lechometz betzonen vehisir o shalem im lo shaha betocho me'et le'et mutar. So a country mouse contributes a positive flavor because it's served on the tables of kings. But a city mouse, we're concerned. We're concerned lest it contribute positive flavor in beer and vinegar, or does it contribute a negative flavor? And therefore, if it falls into beer or vinegar when it's cold and it's removed whole, if it hasn't been there for a long time, meaning a day or longer, then it's permitted.
Good. Okay, so now we sort of have another axis in here, which is we have the question of challah and shikra and to what extent those are davka. We've seemingly pretty much wrapped that up. And now the Shulchan Aruch inserts this piece about city and field mice, which we mentioned the Torah didn't mention. Okay, so now we basically have this question of how is the Shulchan Aruch reading the sugya? What is he doing with some of the earlier Rishonim? Right, that's the question. Okay, any other comments or questions before we charge ahead? Okay. Great. Noam, could you, Rav Nachum, were you saying something?
Yeah, I was going to say maybe you might want to point out what the difficulty is with what he's saying and how he read the Gemara.
Good. So I think let's read the Shach. The Shach takes us in that direction. Noam, can you read the Shach for us?
Sure, just remind me what's safe in the Shach.
It's Aleph in the Shach.
Aleph. Achbara de dvara v'chulei. So this is about the country mouse, which I'm now starting to get confused between the two. The Shulchan Aruch is saying that one contributes a positive flavor.
Yeah, and the suffix which we saw in the Torah is about the city mouse,
which is on the Shulchan Aruch.
Right? Did I say the Torah? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Mashma midivrei hamachaber the achbara de dabra pshita lan de mashpiach b'shechar v'chometz kevan de ole al shulchan melachim.
Okay, pause there. Pause there. Yeah.
So it seems from the words of the Shulchan Aruch that this field mouse, it's obvious to us that it contributes a positive flavor in beer and in vinegar, since it's served on the tables of kings.
Right, and seemingly shechar and chometz davka. Okay, that's how the Shach seems to initially read it. Okay. Okay, now read the important parentheses.
ואפשר לפי זה, דעכברא דדברא אפילו ביין ושמן, וכהגבנה אינה פוגמת. And it's possible that according to this, it would not contribute a negative flavor to other liquids like wine or like oil.
According to whom?
According to who? Meaning the Shach is understanding the Shulchan Aruch, no? Or am I missing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
According to what the Shulchan Aruch said. Yeah.
Right. So it's possible that the Mechaber would even say, or would basically say that the Achbar Davra is always going to be L'Shevach and is never gonna be Tam Lifkam. And so that the Shach seems to potentially read him, right? But now we have a problem, and this gets a little bit to our question of how we read Olel Shulchan Alachim, right? That becomes the question. So keep going.
Uveshas mochach דאף על גב דעולה על שולחן מלאכים, מספקלן אי נותן tam לפגם בתערובת עיין שם.
Good. Pause there.
And in the Gemara, it's shown that even though it's served on the tables of kings, we're just uncertain whether it contributes a negative flavor to a mixture.
Right. So how is he reading the Olel Shulchan Alachim? What is it saying? What is it not saying?
He's reading it as an afal gav, which actually kind of works with the language of the Gemara. V'halo ole al shulchan shel malachim. I think it was a way of trying to prove that there's no chiddush, rather than to prove decisively that it's a source of shevach.
Right. Exactly. It in and of itself might be Olel Shulchan Alachim, but as he says here, right, misfekalan im nosen tam livgan betaroves, right? Just because it is itself Olel Shulchan Alachim does not mean that it can't be tam pagum in a mixture.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but
it's actually funny because Rav Nachum asked when we were learning the Gemara, like, what does the Olel Shulchan Shel Malachim mean? And I just blurted out, it's Shevach. But now I actually think that's wrong. But that seems to be what the Shulchan Aruch is saying, but not what the Shach is saying.
Right. And the Shach is saying that something can be both Olel Shulchan Alachim Batzmo, or however, Pagum or Pogem really in a Tarovis. Not Pagum, Pogem.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, the Afal Pi.
The Afal Pi she'efshar lidchok uleyashev mikol makom lo nireh ken me'arif ve'arosh ve'tur ve'arambam ve'ravan ve'shar poskim shelo hizkiru klal hadachbara de dabra ela katvu bestam achbar v'dok. And even though it would be possible to offer some forced explanation, nonetheless, that doesn't seem to be right. From the Rif and the Rosh and the Tur and the Rambam and the Raivan and all other poskim who don't mention this distinction at all between the two different kinds of mice.
Right. So he seems to be saying, well, we could do some sort of pill-pull work here to figure out what the Shulchan Aruch is saying, but when you've got this lineup of Rishonim against him, we don't need to go into all of that, right? Part of what's also surprising here is that, at least according to the Shach's read here, he seems to be poskening against his Shlosha Amudim, right? That's what it's. I mean, this was a question that I had that it doesn't totally get answered. But right, as the Shach is saying here, certainly is going against the Torah, certainly is going against, is going against the Rosh and the Rambam. Yeah, and against, right, he names them right here. Yeah. Lexi, Rev Lexi, do you have a...
Yeah, I think it's an interesting example where sometimes the Machaber is like slightly more willing to paskin against a kind of like implicit contradiction with the sources than an explicit one, in the sense that like they don't explicitly say, and we don't make that distinction. They just don't make that distinction. And so there are, I feel like, sometimes where he's more willing to like, even though it does seem like the correct implicit read that from the lack of their making that distinction, it means that they don't think it exists. I feel like there's like several cases where he is more willing to sort of contradict an implication than like an explicit psak by his Amudei Hara.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Thank you. Okay, so the Shach brings up the possibility that the Mechaber thinks that the Achbar de Davra is never pogam in any type of liquid. We're gonna see. So I didn't put this on the source sheet, but I think it's worth looking at. I won't make anyone. I'll share my screen. I'm not gonna make anyone else read this print. Okay, can someone just give me a thumbs up? You can see the Pri Chadash here. Great. Okay, so I outlined it over here. Okay. All right. Ulefichach, my demashma midivrei harambam umefarshim acherim shestam achbar v'hainu afil achbar adedavra shepogem biyayin o b'shemen o b'dvash efshar shegam mechaber model hazeh v'delo mehabach v'hashach. Right. So the Pri Chadash is reading differently and saying that the that we are talking here about a stam achbar, and basically that the Mechaber would only say that the achbar de dabra is mashbiach in our two dafka cases, in our cases of beer and vinegar. Okay, but basically, and he says, explicitly against the way the Shach is reading the Mechaber. Okay, and that it is pogem, as you can see here, shepogem b'yayin b'shemen uvidvash, right? That it's pogem in the other, liquids in question. Okay. I also want to look. How are we doing on time? Okay, I want to look briefly here.
I don't understand. I don't quite understand. How are we understand? What is the psak halacha of the Shulchan Aruch? And does the Shach disagree? Shach seems to disagree with the psak halacha of the Shulchan Aruch. What you just brought is saying how is it saying that the Shulchan Aruch actually agrees with the Shach also? And in that case, how do you read the Shulchan Aruch like that? Doesn't seem to be.
Right. I mean, I think that part of it is.
I mean, what does the Shach say? Wait, let's take a step back. What does the Shach saying? What is the psak halacha according to the Shach? In the simplest terms.
He thinks that it's only pogem in, he thinks that it's pogem b'chol davar, in anything.
Which? Both mice?
Just the davra. Right?
I thought it's saying that both mice are. I mean, isn't the Gemara? Isn't he's? I don't. We're not making a distinction. I thought the Shach say don't make a distinction between the mice, like the tour,
right.
And therefore,
right, and that right. Sorry, I not the liquids.
And therefore we're misupak. Therefore, by all mice, we're misupak whether it's pogem or not pogem, and therefore we have to treat it l'chumra.
Right. Right, but your question is how to read the Mechaber in the other direction.
Yeah, how to read the Mechaber is agreeing with what I just said.
Right. Rev Lexi, do you have a...
Well, just that I think the Shach's thing, right, is that, like, again, it would be theoretically more makil than the Mechaber, because the Mechaber is theoretically saying that, like, the Achbar de Dabra is l'shevach in all cases, no matter what. Whereas I think the Shach is saying that even that one, it's only with regard to the beer and vinegar that we're like uncertain if it's l'shevach, but with all other mixtures, we're going to default to treating it as lifgam.
Yeah.
True, definitely.
Yeah.
Right. So let me summarize. Let me see if I'll tell you if I'm correct. I'm going to try to summarize. I think what we're saying is like this. According to the Shach, in all mice in beer and vinegar might be the shevach, so we have to treat it as though it is the shevach. And all mice in most other things, let's say, I don't know what they are, but in most other things, it's pogem. And therefore you don't need shishim.
Right. In the case of wine or oil or honey.
Yeah, let's say, wine or oil or other things, we're going to assume it's pogem. But just by beer or wine, which is exactly the way the Gemara seems to be sounding, we're misupakim, so therefore we have to assume maybe it is the shevach. And it doesn't seem like the Shulchan Aruch is saying that. But what was this last source that you brought? What was he trying to say? He was saying that the Shulchan Aruch does agree with the Shach, but he didn't explain how to fit it in the words.
So I want to bring. So let me share it back. I didn't realize that it was also in the. It's not in my version, I don't think. But I'll share this here. Okay. All right. So I didn't bring the whole thing. Maybe let's read from Umikol Makom. That might be a better. Rav Nachman, are you okay to read, or do you want me to?
Just point me the place.
Umikol Makom, right here.
If you have the Shara edition, it's in Reish Tet.
I'm just looking at the screen here. Umikol Makom af ladat hamechaber. It's hard to read. Lishar
Dvarim, I think.
Lishar Dvarim. Din achbar de dabra, the wild, the country mouse. De dabra kishar ha'isurim. Right. Kishar ha'isurim l'chumra. Right. Because it's good. V'tzarich litom hatavshil al yedei kfela. Or you need 60. Kfela arama. Lirot im pagam hatavshil o hishpicho. Right. That makes sense, right? Lefichach mai demashma medivrei Rambam umefarshim acherim shestam achbar what does that say?
I think v'hainu afilu achbar dedavra.
V'hainu afilu achbar dedavra. Even the good mouse, even the tasty mouse, shepogem biyayin ubeshemen. He would for sure. By that we know. In other words, there's three categories of things. There's like other food. Maybe it is. Maybe it helps, or maybe it doesn't help. It could be pogem or not pogem. By yayin, it for sure pogem. By yayin and shemen, it's for sure pogem. This good achbar. O b'devarim efshar shegam hamechaber model lezed lo. What is that?
V'delom mehabach ve'ashach. Basically, yeah.
It's not.
Is it not how the Shach read the Mechaber is saying maybe the Achbar Dedavra is mashpiach bechol davar. Here he's saying it seems like even the Achbar Dedavra would be pogem in anything other than beer and vinegar.
Well, no, it's pogem. I think it's pogem in yayin and shemen. It's not pogem in beer.
Yeah.
And in all other categories of things, we have to ask the kefela. We have to ask the kefela rama. We have to see, is it pogem or not pogem? But and then presumably by an achbar de mata, we don't have to ask the kefela. For sure, it's going to be pogem in other things.
Yeah.
And that's the only difference. The only place that we can find a distinction is over in those other things. But by shemen, every kind of achbar is pogem, and by vinegar, every kind of achbar is not pogem, or is suffix, and therefore we treat it as it's pogem.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So basically, two different ways to read the mechaber. Either the Achbar de Dabra is mashbiach only in shechar and chometz, or it can be mashbiach in other liquids. Okay. There is also a good Aruch HaShulchan here where he summarizes some of these things, but I'll mention it to Rav Joel, and it can be a Thursday thing. Okay, I think let's move a little bit. Let's go to we already read the Torah in Gimel, but I want to look a little bit at the Beis Yosef there, so we'll turn back to the Beis Yosef. Eitan, could I ask you to read in Gimel and the Beis Yosef first? He has there's a little bit of an analysis of this question of Chiddush, and a machlokas between Rava and Rav Sheshes and the Gemara. But then we can start at V'chein Pireish Haran. In my section here, it's just a little bit down in Gimel. I have it at the last line of a page.
Yes, I see it. Okay. V'chein Pireish Haran Zal. Ivrei Rava, וכתב על זה ומהשמעינן שכל הדברים המאוסים כעכבר וכיוצא בו אין אוסרין בפליטתן אלא בחלב השיקרא דמשבחי בהו. ואף בשנמחה גופן לגמרי ונתערב בהתר מרובה מהם יש להתיר משום דמדאורייתא ברובע בטל. Velo mitane meisura klal. Ad kan lashana. And so this is what how the Ran explained what Rava said and wrote about this. From this we can learn that everything that is disgusting, like a mouse or things like it. You're not actually. You don't.
Right, sorry to interrupt. That in the Torah there, quoting the Rashba, right, he mentions these flies and mosquitoes and other disgusting things. So part of the question he's dealing with here is how much do we extend davar ma'us outside of achbar to other potentially disgusting insects? Okay, you can continue to translate.
So for these things, you don't prohibit the flavor that comes out of it, except for when it's in wine or beer, where it actually makes it taste better. And even when its body has become totally dissolved and mixed with the heter, you can permit it because deoraita, you permit it if it's mostly heter, because deoraita, when it's mixed mostly with an isur, mostly is mixed with mostly heter, it's batel, and you're not deriving any benefit from this isur at all. From the isur at all.
Right. So we saw this a little bit last week or in the last 2 weeks. It's not you're not enjoying this thing, right? You're not enjoying the bug. It seems like part of the question that is at play here is why. Right, we're quoting the Rashba about dvarim meusim that people are bodel mehen, and the Beis Yosef seems to be kind of answering this implicit question of why do we have this piece about the bugs and the insects here and not in Beria from a few weeks ago, right? That seems to be a little bit of the why quote the Rashba in this siman about Achbar and not earlier. Okay, so he continues to sort of touch on that. V'davar barur.
V'davar barur hu denemalim v'zvuvim v'yitushim v'kol dvarim sh'adam bodel mehem lemeyusam shavim la'achbar badin zeh. T'ha'tama da'achbara la'asar bishar mashkim delav shikra v'chala mahai tamahu k'mevu'ar medivrei Rashba v'Aran shekol dvarim ha'meusim ka'achbar din echad lahem. And it's clear that things like ants or flies or mosquitoes and anything that a person separates themselves from because they're disgusting are have the same ruling as Achbar, because of this reasoning, that a mouse, because the reason that a mouse is not prohibited in every other drinks, that's not all the drinks that aren't wine, sorry, excuse me, beer and vinegar, um, for I guess for this reason,
This reason being what?
because it makes shekara and challah better.
And that in everything else, it's disgusting. I think
it's disgusting, right?
It's the varmos,
right? Because meaning in those things it makes it better, but everything else it's bad,
right?
Right, and this is made clear in the words of the Rashba and the Ran that everything that is disgusting, like an achbar, has one rule for it. It's all sort of ruled on the same way.
Right. So this seemingly is the Beis Yosef is telling us this is why we have this piece of the Rashba in this Siman, is because, especially with this language that the Rashba uses of kol adam bodel mehen lemiusan, right? That's the same language that we saw in the Gemara when it came to the Achbar, right? So he seems to be drawing this link between the Achbar and these things because there's sort of a natural disgust. Okay. Good. So the other thing that comes up that we talked about, someone asked earlier, actually, Shama, I think maybe it was you. This question of ima heter rabba alav. Right, I'll just read it quickly back in the Torah. Right. Katav Rashba dvarim hameusim shenafsho shel adam katseva hen ki nemalim uchizvuvim vitushim shekol adam bodel mehen lemiusan afil nisarvu b'tavshil v'nimcha gufan b'secho im haheter rabba alav mutarin. Right, as long as there's rov shel heter, it's mutar. We saw a second ago the Ran explained that it's because midaraisa beruba batel. That was the Ran. I want to skip down in the pretty far down towards the very end of the Beis Yosef. It's a new section for me. Vidad besof, the besof sharidura. Someone give me a thumbs up when you're there. Great. Shammai, because I think this was your question. So can you read starting there? Vidad besof sharidura.
Where is it? I still can't find it.
Towards the very end of the Beis Yosef and our Siman.
Before the Katav b'Teshuvat Rashba, or after that?
After.
Oh, after.
For me, it's sort of the last highlighted section.
What are the first words?
Vida de besof sharidura.
It might be on the page where Siman Kufhe starts. And that might be perfect.
Oh, wait.
The race page all didn't mind it.
Oh, I found it. Okay.
Okay.
בסוף שערי דורה העריך הרבה בדין זבוב שנפל לגדרה והוציאו בכף ולא החזיר הכף לגדרה או החזירו. So
that's just an introduction of the question that the Sharidura is dealing with, but keep going.
והעריך גם בחילוקים אחרים, ונראה שהוא סובר דזבוב אוסר בפליטתו עד 60, כשאר האיסורים.
Okay, so pause there for a second. So how does the Sharidura hold that's different than what we saw before in the Rashba?
So it's up until 60, it has to be batel b'shishim.
Right, exactly.
ואינו מחלק בין שאר איסורים למידי דבדילה אינש מיני מחמת מיוסו. So it doesn't make a chiluk, doesn't make a differentiation between any type of isur to these ones that are disgusting or repulsive ones.
Right.
That people are disgusted by them, like the zvuv and the atush, etc. כתב רבנו בסימן ק"ז, וגם כן רבנו ירוחם, כמו כן בשם, כך כתב בשם הרמב"ם והראש, ויש לתמוע על זה, מפני שדברי הרשב"א והר"ן ז"ל שמחלקים ביניהם מיוסדים על אדני פז, דקרבה נקטינן.
Okay, you can pause. You can pause there.
Yeah.
Right. So the first piece there is that on the side against the Rashba, the side of Shishim in this case, you have some pretty big names, right, including the Rosh.
Rosh, yeah.
Right. It's not right. The way the Torah presents it is it's just this is the Din. This is what the Rashba says. But there's some heavy hitters on the other side who say sort of as you asked earlier that it's a question of Shishim. Okay. I want to go to we'll just see how the Mechaber Paskin. So we'll go back to the Shulchan Aruch in Gimel. Okay. Isaac, could you read the Shulchan Aruch in Gimel?
But by the way, I'm very happy you just showed us this Beis Yosef here. I think because he says in Kuf Zayin, this explains a lot because whenever we learn Kuf Zayin about the fly and the soup, we're always wondering why is this a problem? Like why obviously it's Var well, Savar Ma'us. But how does but the Sharidura actually no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about it more. I'll get back to you.
Okay. Okay. So Isaac, do you have Gimel up? Isaac, you're muted.
Sorry. דברים המאוסים שנפשו של אדם קצה בהם, כנמלים וזבובים ויתושים, שכל אדם בודל מהם למיוסן, אפילו נתערבו בתבשיל ונמחה גופן בתוכו, אם ההתר רבה עליו מותרים. מכל מקום כל שאפשר לבדוק ולהעביר במסננת, בודק ומסנן. Okay. So
Right, so who is that? Who is that?
I'm sorry.
You don't need to, who is he paskening like?
Let's see. That's the isn't that the Rashba?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, that's the Rashba, right? So he's passing the Rashba, and then look over in the Taz in Vav.
Vav.
Taz
Okay.
in Vav.
Yeah.
It's pretty short. Yeah.
רש"ל פירוש פירש גיד הנשה, פסק להחמיר בזה, וכן I don't know.
Mori v'chami.
מורי וחומי ז"ל, זה לשונו, מסיק להחמיר, אבל כבר כתב רמה שאין לשנות המנהג שנוהגים להקל. Okay. So in Gid Hanashe, they say we should be machmir on this.
So who's machmir and what's whose position is that? The machmir position here? Right. The first thing is the Maharshal.
Yeah.
Right. The Taz is quoting the Maharshal, saying that the Maharshal is machmir in this case, right? Basically in the Rashba case.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the Maharshal is just holding Shari Dura and the Rosh and that position. But then what does he say about the Ramah and Kuf Zayin?
He says that he holds that you shouldn't change the minhag to be mekel.
Right. So it seems like there is the school Rosh, Shari Dura, and the Maharshal of being machmir ad shishim in the case of bugs, but we're mekel here. I'm glad, Noam, I could send you off happy. Good. Okay, I think we're out of time. But thank you for Rav Nachman for the opportunity. Thanks everyone for playing along.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Excellent job. Thank you very much. All right. Take care.